Great. Hello, and welcome to the MAPC Technical Assistance TAP Informational webinar. We're so glad that you have joined us to learn more about TAP today. My name is Josh Fiala. I'm the Director of Land Use at MAPC, and I'm happy to welcome you to this webinar. I don't think I'm alone at MAPC in saying that this is one of our most exciting parts of our work as a regional planning agency to invite project concepts for you to work with MAPC on local programs and projects and planning initiatives that will advance regional goals together. So we're happy to have you here with us. Our TAP application cycle for 2026 projects is now open, and this is a webinar that is a part of that cycle, and we're here to walk everyone through the process so that you can get the most out of this TAP cycle in front of us. You can advance the next slide, Gloria. Yeah, so just a notification everyone that this is being recorded. Please do note that we're primarily recording the meeting so that we can post it on the TAP website, and we'll share it with those unable to attend with us today. If you'd prefer not to be a part of the recording, you can keep your audio and video turned off for the duration of the meeting. But if you don't mind being a part of the recording, it would be great to see your faces and be great to engage with you during the Q&A portion of the webinar as well. So our agenda for the webinar, we have basically a brief overview of the Technical Assistance Program to start us off, a discussion of the fiscal year 2026 Technical Assistance Program funding priorities. We'll walk through how to apply for Technical Assistance Program funds, share a couple of examples of the Technical Assistance Program projects in the past, and a map showing TAP-funded projects in the MAPC region from fiscal year 2025. We'll wrap up with the Q&A question and answer session for any follow-up questions that we didn't cover in the introductory presentations. And if you have questions during the presentation, you can put them into the chat, and then we'll bring those up in the Q&A portion and cover any questions you have along the way. Next slide, please, Gloria. So in addition to myself, I'm joined by several MAPC colleagues, including our Executive Director, Lizzie Wyant, and our TAP Coordinator, Gloria Huang-Pu. We'll also be joined by Sukanya Sharma from the Land Use Department and Lindsay Randall from the Arts and Culture Department to share two past TAP projects. We're happy to have everyone along with us as part of this webinar. So thank you for joining us. So I'll kick us off with some basic information about MAPC's Technical Assistance Program. The TAP program is an opportunity for cities and towns to leverage the expertise of MAPC. The work areas representing MAPC areas of MAPC areas of expertise are listed on the side of the screen and correspond to our departments at MAPC. From our perspective at MAPC, the TAP program is an opportunity for us to partner with cities and towns to address local and regional planning challenges. TAP grants fund MAPC staff time to do that work. Effectively, it is an opportunity to expand local capacity through MAPC staff. All 101 cities and towns in the MAPC region are eligible for TAP funding. Advance to the next slide, Gloria. Thank you. So as the Regional Planning Agency, we view the Technical Assistance Program as one of the ways for us to advance regional goals. This includes the complementary regional goals of implementing local, regional, and state plans and policies, with the focus on implementation being the important part there. We're a planning agency, but we love to see things get done. Prioritizing projects that further equity and inclusion in the region, and making sure that we center that in our approaches and our project work. Advancing MAPC's regional plan, Metro Common 2050, including the action areas such as inclusive growth and mobility, homes for everyone, and other strategic priorities across that regional planning document. And bringing together multiple communities to work together towards shared goals and benefits, and making sure that we're bringing as many municipalities together around common shared challenges and opportunities. Next slide, please. Thank you. We have several funding sources which combine to the total of over $1 million in technical assistance program funds, which MAPC awards each year. The primary funding sources for TAP are District Local Technical Assistance, DLTA, which originates from funds appropriated by the legislature and governor, and they're allocated by formula among the Commonwealth's 13 regional planning agencies, of which MAPC is one, of course. And a thank you and side note to all of you who have helped to advocate for DLTA funding in the past and who will continue to do so in the future. We really appreciate that, and that's an important effort each year. And then the secondary primary funding source is planning for MetroCom and technical assistance, PMTA, that originates from municipal assessments from all MAPC municipalities that contribute to cover MAPC's regional activities. We appreciate that as well. We expand the impact and reach of those funds, leveraging other sources that include federal funds, Bar Foundation grants, state funds such as One Stop and Eco One Stop grants, and local funds that combine to make the projects whole. That's an important point that typically a TAP project is a constellation of several funding sources. We bring these funding sources together to make that project complete. MAPC teams are always happy to help expand local capacity in the pursuit of grants and complementary funding sources to help round out the funding for a project. And we're always happy to help with the pursuit of funding for a good project idea that is aligned with our regional goals. So now I'll pass it along to MAPC's Executive Director, Lizzie Wyant, to walk us through priorities for the next TAP round.
Thanks, Josh. Hi, everyone. For those of you I haven't met yet, I am Lizzie Wyant. I am the new Executive Director here at MAPC, and I'm really thrilled to be kicking off this year's TAP round. And the team asked me to talk a little bit about kind of the why behind our funding priorities inside TAP. So I'm going to go through each one of these priorities and just talk a little bit about our thinking behind them. So our funding priorities, again, you see the 4 here. On the first one, in terms of projects that serve multiple communities, we want to make sure that we're using TAP to support municipalities in areas that MAPC is really uniquely positioned to work on as your regional planning agency. And so that means that we're looking to support projects that advance local priorities and align with regional goals. We do not exclusively fund multi-municipal or regional projects, but we really welcome project concepts that are either bringing together several municipalities to work on a particular issue, or maybe it's the kind of project where we're working on a particular issue in a particular municipality, but it ends up being replicable to other municipalities where we can kind of copy, paste, and repeat that best practice in another municipality. And we welcome projects that are kind of in either of those categories. On the second one, we really want to make sure we're directing our TAP funds towards projects that advance social or racial equity, which is really at the core of everything that we do at MAPC, even over here in 2025. And we try to do that equity work through policy and planning tools throughout the region. For those of you who have not memorized MetroCommon, we can make sure to add a link in the chat so that you can understand which projects, when we talk about advancing MetroCommon's regional goals, you can kind of get a sense to see what those are. And then this year, we decided to make a special area of investment for this year's TAP round. And it's honestly because we heard a need from municipalities and the communities that we serve that there was really great interest in projects that would help advance and increase the supply of affordable housing through zoning, local policy, or other systemic changes. And so this year, we're going to be doing a little bit of prioritization to make sure that we're advancing those projects that are really working to break down barriers to housing. And things that are kind of included along the breaking down barriers to housing line of thinking are related to advancing economic opportunity in a community, increasing transportation, particularly related to housing, creating positive health outcomes, and advancing public safety and preparedness. So that is a new way of investing some of our TAP dollars for this year, but we're really excited about the projects that we expect to see coming from all of you. And I think that might actually be my only slide, and I'm actually turning it over to Gloria to kind of finish out the presentation part, but I'm going to stay on and be here for when folks have questions.
Thank you so much, Lizzie, for that overview of our funding priorities. As Lizzie just mentioned, again, please feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll answer them in the Q&A section. I'm going to now take us through a little bit more of the nitty-gritty details of how to actually formulate and submit your application to work with us through the Technical Assistance Program. Again, my name is Gloria Huangpu. I am the coordinator of our Technical Assistance Program here at MAPC. Excited to see you all on the meeting today and to talk through this all together. So how do you actually apply for TAP? The main thing is to complete the TAP application form. And as you're working on that, you're certainly welcome to speak with MAPC staff about your project concept, develop it and refine it before you submit it. That can help make sure that your project concept is aligned with the funding priorities that Lizzie just spoke to, as well as our staff capacity to collaborate with you on that project. We do have a PDF version of the call for concepts with all of the application components and questions on the TAP website, which we'll look at together in just a minute. You can see a screenshot of that in the middle of the slide here. And it's recommended that you keep a draft version of your responses, since the application form where you submit doesn't actually have the option to save your work. But when you are ready to submit, you'll fill out the web application form, which you can see in the screenshot on the far right of the page. And again, we'll walk through that together in a few moments. This year, you're going to want to submit your project concept by December 8th. If you're on our listserv, you should have seen notifications about that already. TAP is a rolling application, but submitting by December 8th will mean that your application is going to be considered when the most funding is available at the start of the calendar year. And in the last few years, we have received more applications by that initial deadline than we have capacity to fund or complete. So it's a good idea to get your project in by then. And then over the course of the start of the year, the first few months of the new calendar year, we'll be reviewing project concepts and announcing awards by early March of 2026. So what is actually required in the TAP application? There are three main sections of the application. The first is about your project concept. So telling us a little bit about project description, the deliverables that you're envisioning, the outcomes for your community that you're hoping for from this project, as well as the timeline that you expect to work on this. We're also interested in connections to any of the local plans that you already have in place, or maybe regional or statewide plans or policies that you're looking to further and implement in your local communities. And then we also want to know who's going to be involved in the project, whether you have other municipal partners you're looking to work with to further that funding priority of having multi-municipal projects. Or maybe you have non-governmental partners like community-based organizations local to your community or nonprofits that you're working with. So then the second set of questions in the application will have to do with community context, and that'll really focus in on gathering data points related to racial or social equity and how this project might impact those metrics. The third section will ask about capacity and support for the project locally. This will include questions about matches, though TAP doesn't require a match. If there are municipal funds that can be put towards the project, that can often help round out a project budget. If not, that's totally fine. It's also helpful to know what kind of local capacity there is for that in-kind support or collaboration, or for things like translation and interpretation services. Now, while we're talking about funding sources, I just wanted to deep dive a little bit more into what Josh mentioned earlier of other grant funding sources that we use to stretch our TAP dollars a little bit further. So in particular, if you have a project idea that you think is a good candidate for a state grant program and you know already you want to work with MAPC to do that work, we can work together with you on our staff to develop the scope for your grant application. And if that grant is awarded, we can potentially then also use TAP funds as a grant match. And some of the common grant programs that we do this with are the Community One-Stop Planning Grants, the Eco One-Stop, or what was previously known as the EEA Planning Grants, Community Compact Grants, etc. Federal grants are, of course, less available these days, but some of our ongoing projects you can see on the right are matched with what are federal funds like CDBG funds, for example, which are used as a match with TAP for the Gloucester Housing Production Plan that's highlighted in the box on the right. Diving back into a few of the other components that are required for the application. First thing to know is a letter of support is required from your municipal CEO or someone else on your city or town's leadership team, whether it's the planning director or assistant town manager, whoever the right person is designated to be from your municipality. You do also need to have a council representative appointed to MAPC's council. And if you aren't sure about that, we can help you find out if you have a council rep or if the seat is vacant. Many of you might know Emma Coons, who's our council engagement specialist, who ran the fall council meeting a few weeks ago, and they can help you look up this information as well. And lastly, we do ask that you review and acknowledge MAPC's racial equity, diversity, and inclusion statement. We call this our REDIS. It's really a commitment to adhering to equitable and inclusive practices in our work together if you are awarded to be part of the TAP program. If you do end up participating and your project is selected, we will be asking you to sign this document as well to be part of the process of getting set up to work with us. And of course, if you have any questions as you go through filling out the application, we're always happy to help answer any questions or talk through your project ideas. Any MAPC staff who you're interested in working with or myself as the TAP coordinator are a good place to start to help you refine those project ideas and answer any questions. You also have available your sub-regional coordinators to work with you on developing your TAP project concepts. We have 8 subregions at MAPC, and each of our member municipalities is part of at least one. And your subregional coordinators might already be helping you and your subregional cohort to brainstorm multi-municipal project ideas at subregional gatherings already. They might be helping you identify opportunities to partner with your neighboring cities or towns to address those shared challenges. And you can work with your subregional coordinators on your project proposals, and they'll connect you with the right teams internally at MAPC. As far as who else you have available to you as resources, we do have a contact list on the TAP website. It's linked in the TAP call for proposals, so we'll look at that in a moment. That contact list has the information for reaching out to team directors and managers about the project areas you'd like to take on. And you can look at the different topic areas we're able to provide technical assistance on in the sheet on the right and reach out to teams based on that. Again, all available on the TAP website, and we'll include a link in the chat for that as well. Now, before we dive into some of those TAP project examples in the map, I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen share and walk you all through the application itself so that everyone knows where to find all of this information on our website. So, all right, so you should all be now seeing my browser window. Josh, can I get a thumbs up if this is looking good to you?
Not yet.
How's that?
It's still, oh, there it goes. You got enough.
All right, great. Thanks. 2025, and we still have Zoom issues. Here we go. So this is our TAP website at mapc.org, linked in many places, many emails that you all have in your inboxes, I'm sure, but also if you Google MAPC TAP, this should show up. So on this website, if you scroll down at the very top, you'll see our banner here with a direct link to the TAP application. And if you go a little bit further, you'll get to these two green buttons on the bottom where you can preview the TAP application in a PDF format, and then this link in the middle of the page to submit your TAP application. First, let's look at this PDF version of the application, which I've pulled up here. When you click on that first button, you'll find the PDF version of our call for concepts, which includes our cover letter from Lizzie giving an overview, as she described earlier, about our funding priorities for this year, some background about the program that we've covered for the most part already in our presentation today, a link to some of the resources that we discussed, like the contacts list, the eligible project areas. And then as you continue in the last few pages here, you'll see the actual application questions that you'll be asked to submit. So a section on applicant information, the project concept descriptions that we talked about earlier, a section on community context and social and racial equity, municipal capacity, and then towards the end here, a couple of questions about how you put together the application and how you heard about TAP. At the end here, a reminder to include as an attachment the letter of support from your lead municipalities and the acknowledgement of our REDIS, the Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Statement. Again, it's recommended that you download a copy of this PDF and write up your answers in a separate document before you go ahead and submit it. The place where you can submit it, you'll see again, is linked either in this button up here or this middle green button on the TAP webpage. That'll take you to this application form, which mirrors the PDF that we just went through together, with the various sections to include your applicant information, project concept, community context, municipal capacity, an area to attach your letters of support, and the REDIS acknowledgement. So that is where you can find everything on our website. I will go ahead and stop sharing and just pause briefly here for any clarifying questions before we move on to some project examples. We'll have a longer and more in-depth Q&A section at the very end, but recognizing that we shared a lot of information. So just wanted to pause and see if there's any quick clarifying questions that have come up. Vincent, I see you have your hand raised. Do you want to go ahead and jump in?
Yeah, thank you. So I think this is pretty clear, but just to emphasize that no money is coming to the municipality. The money is being spent inside MAPC in the relevant department that has the expertise.
Mhm.
So there's no kind of grant administration stuff for the municipality. That's my understanding. And then the question, please indicate if that's wrong. And then the question is, who is eligible to be a project manager? I'm, for example, a member of a select board appointed committee. So I'm I'm not a municipal employee. My service is completely voluntary. I have a project concept related to what our committee is working on, which is a bicycle pedestrian path. Am I eligible, or would it be the chair of our committee, or does it, or I understand neither of us would be this, the signatory on the town side, but I'm asking who could be the project manager?
Yeah, thanks for those questions, Vincent. I think good point to clarify both those items here. So to your first point, that's right. We use the technical assistance program funds to really essentially fund MAPC staff time to be able to share our expertise and our skill sets with our member municipalities. So all 101 member municipalities are eligible for that to tap into our staff's skill sets and time. To your question about who we work with, typically you're right that it is municipal staff that we're working with on these projects. Often the projects will have a advisory committee associated with it that might be an existing standing committee, such as the one that you're on. But that's something that would probably be worth a conversation with whoever staff member is associated with the committee that you're representing.
The one clarifying thing I just offer to Gloria's first point about how the dollars flow is that, like Gloria mentioned, that we occasionally are using TAP dollars to support grant funded projects that are happening at a city or town. So for example, if a community applies for a grant and they're awarded, and they are also asking for TAP dollars to be able to use MAPC staff time, maybe they don't have a fully staffed planning team, but they want to be able to use our capacity to move towards whatever those implementation dollars came from on the grant side. Those dollars will go to the community, and then we'll be using TAP dollars to support our time. So that's just, I wanted to just clarify that we wouldn't, if a community was receiving grant dollars in a discretionary grant context, we wouldn't then get those too. Sometimes we do, but that would be because that was what the community wanted.
Thanks, Lizzie. I think we'll go ahead and hold the rest of the questions until we get to the Q&A section proper. Next, I just want to make sure we have a little bit of time to invite our colleagues Sukanya and Lindsay to share a little bit more about some TAP project examples. I think this might be helpful too in clarifying some of these questions, or at least giving you some idea of what a project that aligns with all of these different requirements and components can look like. So sharing my screen again here. To just go over, like I said, some project examples, and also just to mention briefly this newly launched TAP projects map that we have available on the TAP website. So if you had continued scrolling down on the website that I was showing you all a few moments ago, you would see this projects map where you can use different filters to look for projects that we awarded through the 2025 TAP cycle based on the municipality that you are in, the subregions that you're interested in, and you can click into each of the projects and learn a little bit more about what the project was about. Just to summarize for you all here, in 2025, we had 60 projects across the region, or rather 47 projects across the region working with 60 municipalities, and 13 of those projects were multi-community projects. So we're certainly not funding exclusively multi-community projects, as Lizzie mentioned earlier, but that is represented as one of our funding priorities. Now, again, just to give you a little bit more color about what these projects can look like, I want to invite our colleagues Sukanya and Lindsay to talk about the two projects shown here on the screen. One is about a local action unit's resource guide that we're developing and is about to launch soon. And the second is about a sustainable heritage project with Marblehead that we've been working on. So with that, I'll pass it over to Sukanya to talk about the first of these.
Great. Thanks, Gloria. Hello, everyone. I'm Sukanya Sharma. I'm a planner in the land use department, but I'm also a sub-regional coordinator for South Shore Coalition. So folks on the South Shore, please feel free to reach out to me. If you have any project ideas, I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, I am here to talk to you about Local Action Unit's resource guide that we'll be launching. A quick plug on November 17th at 1 p.m. So you're more than welcome to join the release webinar. This is one of the examples of a TAP funded project. This was fully funded by TAP. And we especially were excited about it because of its regional nature and its focus on affordable housing. And so it also shows how helpful it can be to work closely with a sub-regional coordinator. This originally originated from the ICC sub-region or the inner core communities region, and they were able to identify some shared needs across municipalities, and so it helped shape a strong project idea there. Just to really quickly give some context, local action units or LAUs are locally created affordable housing enabled by any local action like an inclusionary zoning ordinance. And these can count towards your subsidized housing inventory. They do require a lot of municipal oversight beyond just the state involvement that is there, and a lot of sort of nuances that go into this program. But this, backing up, the idea of this project came directly from the ICC table that I mentioned, where various planners from the communities realized that they were facing similar challenges around administering LAUs, and especially some of the rent increases that they were routinely, most of them were seeing that they couldn't sort of explain in terms of the tenant income that was being outpaced from those increases. There were about 14 communities that partnered with us on this, ranging from ICC as well as some in the NSPC region and NSTF region, so truly a regional one. And across these municipalities, the rent increases in LAUs were rising enough that it was creating a significant displacement concern. And so our idea here was to essentially create a resource guide that provided both some best practices, practical tools and procedures, clarity on how LAU administration can be done for municipalities to assist them in onboarding new staff or just handle some of the monitoring needs that arise from this program. But then we also created some recommendations for both municipal and state partners to see how this from a policy level can be improved. And so this, as I mentioned, this would be releasing on November 17th at 1 p.m. And we hope you can join us there. This was a fun project to work on. And I encourage anyone who's sort of thinking about challenges. I think that's a good way to come into project development and seeing if that challenges resonated among other municipalities, fellow municipalities, where maybe a project can seed through that. So yeah, I hope this was helpful.
Thanks so much, Sukanya. Really helpful to give an example both of the output where we're at the end of this project now and sort of the start of how it all got developed and put together. Lindsay, we're gonna pass it over to you now to talk about this next project.
Yes, thank you, Gloria. So I'm Lindsay Randall. I'm the Senior Regional Humanities Specialist in our Arts and Culture Department. I'm a trained archaeologist, and I was the project coordinator for this, project manager for this project that we did in Marblehead around providing recommendations to update the Old and Historic District Commission, or the OHDC, their guidelines, so that residents can make clean energy upgrades to their homes that fit both climate goals and historic character that the town had already identified as being incredibly important to them. The way in which this project came about, so this is another fully TAP funded project, is that the existing guidelines that Marblehead had around what clean energy retrofits you could put on your house were creating tension between the town and the residents, because it was really limiting the approval of these clean energy retrofits, especially since much of the town actually falls under the old and historic districts. So they were really looking for a way to marry. They had passed a net zero action plan. They had a climate vision plan, really wanted to make the housing that people lived in meet their needs. And so just needed some help from MAPC on how to align the two. So again, our project really, aligns with the sustainability and climate goals. It was a collaboration between the Arts and Culture Department here at MAPC, our Land Use Department, and our Clean Energy Department. And so we delivered proposed guideline revisions to the town that they could do. We also created a sort of matrix grounding everything in national preservation standards that other towns actually can adapt. We've created a blank one that towns could go in, whether it's clean energy, or they can adapt it if they want to do it for ADUs or things like that. Really thinking through how you do preservation to align and support your different goals within your community. And one of the really interesting things is, because we used our sub-region, sorry, my light sometimes shuts off. Our sub-region in this, the North Shore Task Force, we actually brought in Salem as the city of Salem, their preservation planner, and their chair of their historic commission, which is also their historic districts commission, as external experts to help guide us as we did things like walking tours. We created the matrix, we created the guidelines, we did a charrette with experts from Historic New England and Newport Restoration Foundation and everything. So we really brought in not only MAPC expertise, but a lot of historic preservation and clean energy expertise into this project. And it was really exciting. I think it's one of the fun projects. They're all fun, but this one was especially interesting because most people think of historic preservation as a way to stop some of these, goals that towns have, identified as important, like housing creation, clean energy. And I think we really showed that you can do it in a way that protects historic character, but also really uplifts these other priorities that you have. So.
Thank you so much, Lizzie, for that Lindsay, rather, for that overview. I've got a bit of a cold. So
hey, I'll take Lizzie. That is not a bad person to be, so thank you.
That's true. Well, appreciate you talking through that example. I think, again, a great example of working with a local board or commission, to Vincent's question earlier, as well as an example of a project that was focused on a particular municipality, but could be scaled up to apply to other communities across our region as well. So with that, we'll actually pause for our main question and answer section here now. Again, if anyone does have a question, feel free to raise your hand and you can come off mute to ask your question if you would like. You're also welcome to drop your question in the Zoom chat if you don't want to come off of mute. Seeing a queue forming already, so we'll go ahead and start with Tina.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the presentation. I just wanted to go back and clarify, you answered one question about who could be on the project and then who has to actually sign off for it. I'm understanding if a community organization had a project and they went to the town and we got a town official to sign off on it, that would be appropriate for this grant?
That's a good question. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, we are open to having community-based organizations be part of TAP applications. The lead applicant does have to be a city or town. So your city or town that you reach out to would have to submit the application and include that letter of support. But always great to see community organizations brought in from the start of a project. Does that answer your question, Tina?
Yeah, so to follow up, if we have the idea, we go to the town person and we say we could write this with your approval and your participation and figuring out, the collaboration between the town and the organization, that would be an appropriate use of the grant.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of times, Tina, like it kind of comes to get, it's like Jenga, like it kind of comes together in pieces where like a lot of times, there's like a community group or even an appointed group that's like working towards something that the city or town's already like very well aware of it, and kind of the community group will say like this is the idea we're honing in on, where we feel like our city or town needs more planning support and assistance, and so it's kind of done like in a little bit of like steps together with the city or town, but like Gloria said, the community has to be the one to submit and sign off on the application, because, and just so everyone is aware, it's because the vast majority of these dollars, like Josh explained, come from the state, come from district local technical assistance. So we have a contract that guides how we're spending those dollars, and they have to go back to cities and towns.
Correct.
So
yeah.
That's why they have to be the applicant.
Yeah. Oh, I get that. Okay. But it would be, again, okay, if we came up with the idea, we saw a need, they agreed, and then they applied.
And then they apply. Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Tina. Jacqueline, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. So I was really interested in the project that Lindsay described for Marblehead on basically how to upgrade older buildings. I'm a member of the Historic District Commission in Belmont, and this is something we have just been perplexed about. We know we need to do it, but we don't have the expertise to actually implement it. So my question really relates to how or where did the expertise come from for this project? Are there like consultants that are available that could be part of such a project, or maybe you can help me out a little bit more?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Lindsay, definitely feel free to jump in here if you have further thoughts, but typically the way that our TAP projects work, again, MAPC staff are coming in and working with a municipality on whatever the topic area is, whether it's historic preservation and clean energy or land use planning, transportation planning, etc. And so it's really our MAPC staff members' expertise that's being brought to bear on the project.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I would say that's why it was a collaboration between my department, land use, and clean energy, because I brought some of the historic preservation expertise. The land use has a historic preservation planner on staff, and then clean energy brought their clean energy expertise. We did have some external experts help us, but those were through our contacts to talk about like some of their use cases of buildings that they have retrofitted, to talk through what they had to think through. And also just to gut check our, the proposed recommendations for the guideline revisions that we gave. We stay up to date with everything, but at the same time, it's always nice, just people we already have a relationship with at Historic New England or other places, just to be like, hey, you know, you're reading this the same way we're reading this, right? Like, and just kind of creating those relationships, not only for us, but also again for the town, because now the town has this relationship with the experts that we, you know, brought in as sort of an addition to the project. So.
Right. Okay. So if we wanted to like pursue this to, you know, understand a little bit more about how it would work and then submit an application relative to Belmont specifically, should we or can we have a contact to work with to kind of help us flush out how to portray the opportunity on the project application? I'm not quite sure
Yeah,
where to start.
Yep. A great place to start is definitely reaching out to us. I'm happy to be the point of contact and direct you to the right folks at MAPC, or now you know Lindsay, you can reach out to her certainly. But we're always happy to have an initial conversation before you put together an application to make sure that, you know, it's, as you said, sort of scoped in a way that's going to align with the community's needs as well as our program priorities. I will put, before we wrap up today, my email or the technical assistance program email into the Zoom chat so that you all have that available. If you registered for this session, it's probably in your inboxes already as well. But yes, we're always happy to have that conversation before you put together the application. Also, just to make sure, you know, maybe the technical assistance program isn't actually the best place for that work to be funded. So we might be able to help you identify other funding sources as well, or other resources that might be relevant. So
Okay.
definitely happy to have that conversation. Thanks,
Okay.
Jacqueline.
So just out of curiosity, so the project that was presented, was that funded by TAP or by another
That one in
program?
particular was funded by a TAP, yes.
Okay. Okay. Is it kind of the nature of a lift and shift? Or, you know, is it like kind of boilerplate things, or is it very, very specific to, let's say, Marblehead, or in our case, very, very specific to Belmont?
Yeah, and again, Lindsay, feel free to jump in, but I think we were hoping to highlight that project as an example of one where we have, you know, embarked on a new type of process in a particular municipality and have developed a process that can be replicated in other municipalities. I don't think it's quite as structured as a boilerplate that could be, you know, rip and run applied to somewhere else. But that would be a great conversation to have in a one-on-one offline after today's session. Also, just to make sure we can get to any other questions that folks have.
Lovely. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Of course. Thanks for your question. I'm seeing one other question in the chat from Abby. Oh,
I just want to
yep,
know, Gloria, that Lindsay added her email address to the chat. So Jacqueline, if you wanted to reach out, you can connect with her directly.
Thanks. Another question here from Abby in the chat. If an application is received by December 12th, how soon would a decision be made and communicated back? Great question. So as I mentioned earlier, or maybe Josh mentioned this part, we will be reviewing all of our applications throughout December and early January of next year with the goal of getting decisions out to you all by end of February, early March. So if you submit something by the 12th, you should be able to take part in that initial round of application reviews and be hearing back towards the end of February, beginning of March.
Just a tiny housekeeping addition there too, that it's
Yes.
it's December 8th is the date.
Yes. Thank you, Josh. Yeah, if you do end up submitting a few days after December 8th, you'll probably end up getting caught in our initial round of reviews. So some flexibility there, but we do like to have our applications in by that initial deadline if possible. Julie, I see you have your hand up.
I do. Thank you so much. My question, so we've talked a little bit about the TAP we're hoping for. It's a much bigger project than could be done by the TAP. So is it possible to have the team help us scope it out so we can even figure how to tackle something?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
That's a great
always
question.
available to do that. And that is the kind of thing we love actually helping communities and groups think through what that scoping and phasing process could look like. Because that way, sometimes we know of other grant opportunities that we might be able to connect you to actually think of larger opportunities or even figure out how we can kind of like timeline or sequence things out. And also we have a very clear sense of what our limitations are. So if there's something we couldn't do, we'll tell you. And so it's always, we're always glad to do that we're available to do that for all of our cities and towns at any time. You can reach out. That's why Gloria is always saying, like, here's how you reach out to us. We're all available to do that. And I tell people, like, if you're not sure who at MAPC to get in touch with, you can always reach out to me and I will triage it to one of the amazing 120 people who work here.
Thanks, Lizzie, and thanks for the question, Julie. Any other questions from the group? Again, feel free to raise your hand if you would like to chime in, or if you want to put your question in the chat. Welcome to do that as well. Okay, well, hearing none, I will go ahead and put the TAP email address into the chat as well, so that you all have that if you have additional questions after today. Just one final slide to share with you all to wrap us up today. Again, the 2026 call for concepts for our technical assistance program is live on the TAP website. You can reach out to MAPC staff, subregional coordinators, any of us on the call today to brainstorm your project ideas or learn about the different areas of work that we focus on, and to Lizzie's point, where our limitations are. Remember to submit your project concepts by that initial deadline of December 8th. And again, contact us, reach out to us if you have any questions about the application process, about what we went over today that come up. Speaking of which, I see one more question in the chat from Vincent. How many applications per year and how many are funded? I don't have the exact questions off, the exact numbers rather, off the top of my head right now, Vincent, but I would say in the last few years, we've had approximately 50 to 60 applications and have been able to support in some way, whether it's smaller amounts or more holistically 40 to 50 projects or so. So I would say that's the ballpark number.
We do routinely get about twice as many calls for funding as we can afford, but because we try to make sure, like Gloria was saying, sometimes we'll end up trying to fund something through a separate investment at the agency. And so that's how we can really try to get to as many applications as possible.
Yeah.
It's tough. Every year we ask the legislature for more money. And if you want to help us ask the legislature for more money, we would welcome your support and help in that.
Well, appreciate all of the questions this evening and your time. So thank you all again for joining us. You have at least Josh's and my direct email there on the slide, and other emails in the chat here as well. Again, really appreciate you all taking the time and looking forward to seeing the project concepts that come up this year. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good evening. Thanks.